next name on the list is Wayne Borgrick.
Borgtank.
Thank you.
I'm Wayne Borgtank, 129 2nd Street, Waverly, South Dakota.
Next word. Your next word, I'll start.
You know, my Uncle Raymond was born with an oversized heart. In the early 1960s, he took up smoking because the doctors told him smoking would be good for his heart. Well, you know, it created a lot of jobs in the tobacco industry. A lot of people made a whole ton of money. Even a lot of farmers made some money, but you know, the medical research revised that, and that advice is obsolete. You know, as an Army medic, my former father-in-law spent 9 months supervising cleanup crews in Japan and surrounding islands after the atomic bomb was dropped in Korea. Not many people heard about those guys. Because they had not yet realized the dangers of atomic fallout, they only wore the clothes they had and leather gloves for protection. From years of research, we now know how hazardous it is. We now have revised safety standards. Waldo lived with cancer for 25 years before he died, and he lived with 5 different cancers simultaneously. You know, I watched him, and the pain he must have watched, it's just unimaginable for me. Now, after returning from Desert Storm, the thousands of us Desert Storm veterans had pain and illnesses. They didn't appear physically, and it wasn't in our blood. The VA doctors told us for 10 years it was all imaginary, and if we quit thinking about it, it won't be there. Well, it did not work, and after 10 years, the diagnosis was revised to recognize that it is a real medical condition. I personally experienced the physical, mental, and emotional trauma from that experience. The same goes for Vietnam veterans with Agent Orange. It took 40 years, but it has since been revised and it recognized how dangerous it was. Well, at the last meeting with this board, I read portions of the findings from research by a team of cardiovascular doctors at the University Medical Center, Mainz in Germany. In the interview with Professor Christian Frederick Wald, he said it would take a cement wall 30 meters high and 8 meters thick to protect from the effects of infrasound on the heart. This is confirmed now. And I converted that. That comes to a wall 26.24 foot thick and 98.4 feet high. I looked up the thickness of a cement wall needed to protect it against atomic radiation. It's only 24 feet, 2 feet less than infrasound. Well, after thousands, which became tens of thousands of complaints from people living near wind turbines, research by the World Health Organization has led them to reclassify wind turbine illnesses from anecdotal to actual health risk in the month of October 2018. Again, like so many other unknowns who later turned out to be hazard, it has been revised. Now with these revisions, it's obvious with the safety codes you're using are out of date, and to be safety for all, we need to stop construction wind turbines. If you need a heart surgeon, which one would you rather have? The one using old data or the one that's up to date? Now the people of Grant County and South Dakota deserve to be protected from negligence of people willing to put them at risk making decisions with obsolete information. I ask that you deny this now. I also wanted to mention, I didn't have time. This is a letter that was sent to the Canadian Department of Health that I was going to tell you about.
Stephen Grieber.
Stephen Grieber, 17165 468th Avenue, Goodwin, South Dakota. I'm going to try to speed through this. Only got 3 minutes. At this point, I'm sure most of the folks here studied up on wind turbine generators and already know that these pieces of equipment cannot stand on their own in a free market, meaning that without government subsidies, tax credits, they would not be built. Our dollars are being used to prop up this venture that cannot stand on its own. With our nation over $20 trillion in debt, we in South Dakota will be part of deepening that debt. I pray that you folks here on this Board of Adjustment will do the right thing here. The only thing green about these wind turbines is the tax money that they will be getting and using to bribe the good folks here in South Dakota. If wind turbine generators were efficient, I would have a small one on my own property supplying my electrical needs. They cannot compete. Okay. I would like to just read a text that I had submitted to the county commissioner in Deuel County, Mr. Gary Yeager. The text read, "This will be a beautiful view from my deck." I had some pictures, sorry. "I believe that clean energy is a good idea and alternative energy sources studied. Any new alternative energy source needs to have thorough technical, economic, and environmental assessments provided by the proponents. This way we can objectively know whether this new source is at least equal to our current source of power or not. If they are not, then we should not be wasting citizens' resources on them. To find out more about this process, go to winenergypresentation.info, where an independent scientist explains it all. Taxpayers and ratepayers shouldn't be burdened by paying for unproven products just because lobbyists have greased the skids. Thank you for your time." Then I had my address, and that was the end of my part of the text. He texted me back. He said, "Thanks for the message. You are right." End of text. So I believe that even Commissioner Mr. Gary Yeager agrees that this is a waste of our taxpayer money, that we in Deuel County are being bribed with our own tax money to have these turbines erected. I would recommend that you deny this permit, because if you look at it, if you don't care about the people's health, you don't care about deepening the debt, spending tax, being bribed with your own tax money, I guess that means we'll just look the other way as long as we're getting a little on the side. All right, that's all I got. Please deny this permit. There is always death in taxes. However, death doesn't get worse every year. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, sir. The next name on the list is Christy Mogan.
Good evening, Christy Mogan, 15160 471st Avenue, Twin Brook, South Dakota. I'm concerned that this board is reviewing NextEra's WES application while the WES ordinance is under review. It is telling that the applicant, NextEra, is willing to meet the proposed decommissioning but not willing to meet the proposed wholly inadequate 45 dBA sound limits, and that was changed tonight. The board has received hundreds of pages of scientific peer-reviewed reports, hundreds of hours of testimony from concerned citizens showing industrial wind turbines are not safe near homes. This board, this last summer, was told by the Third Circuit Court that the whole ordinance must be considered. This is not an exercise, as Tyler had in his little thing there, he was marking off some boxes. It's not an exercise in marking off boxes. For sections 504 and 1211. The board must consider section 103. It is a minimum requirements. So you can make the DBA whatever you need to protect the residents. No judge will go against you if you're protecting the people of your community. That was proven in Clark this year. In section 103, it goes on to talk about public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. That is your responsibility. Section 104, to secure the safety from fire, these catch fire, panic or other dangers, to promote health and general welfare. I'm not seeing how these are promoting health. They never addressed that in the application. The physical development of the community or the county, the regulations are intended to preserve and protect existing property uses and values. Okay. This application is full of omissions and misleading statements, starting with the flawed flicker and sound report, which is not stamped or warranted by the EAPC company or J. Haley. The methods used are not warranted either. This means that the Crown Ridge was given you nothing to use for the board to prove that Crown Ridge project will be in compliance with an open Grant County ordinance. The board has not hired an expert to evaluate the sound study, and the board does not have the expertise to do so. Deuel County sound study was reviewed and found inadequate. It was the same company, same preparer, same methods. The RAND report previously was submitted to this board. The board has heard, and I am submitting tonight, the PUC docket for 1826, the rough draft of the transcript that says that 50 dBA is a human health hazard. The state hired expert David Hessler, hired by interveners Richard James and world-known community noise expert Robert Rand all agree that the ANSI methods science should be used to evaluate noise, including infrasound. The WHO recommends a 40 dBA maximum. 3 minutes is wholly inadequate. I submitted some facts and findings for your help.
The next name on the list is Gary Elbrock.
Good evening, Gary Albrock, 17539, 468th Avenue, Goodwin, South Dakota. I have an article here dated November 13, 2018 from Kansas. It says all three McPherson County Commissioners voted earlier this week for a moratorium on applications for conditional use permit that would allow the construction of a wind turbine in the county. No application for conditional use permit is in connection with commercial wind turbine project will be accepted for an indefinite period, said the county administrator. The move was done to allow for comprehensive review of the impact commercial wind turbines may have on the county's new E91 emergency system. And what they addressed was how will this affect helicopter emergency services. They received a letter from Life Flight. We received the following letter from Mike Conrad, who is the Director of Operation for Life Flight, with regards to the impact that wind turbine project will have on their services. It is clear that the following facts need to be understood. Life Flight must identify the highest obstacle along their route. They must be able to clear this obstacle by a minimum of 300 feet during the day and 500 feet at night. They also must stay 500 feet below the cloud ceiling if Crown Ridge is built. Life Flight will be required to fly above the turbines at the minimum height of 1,152 feet at night and 952 feet during the day to clear the height of the turbines. Life Flight also must stay below the cloud ceiling by 500 feet. Anytime the cloud ceiling is projected to be at or near 1,452 to 1,652 feet, Life Flight will not be able to land in an area with industrial wind turbines. In these cases, Life Flight will have to land at a pre-designated landing zone. We wanted to know how often our cloud ceiling is at or around 1,652 feet, so we asked a professional. Brad Newman, the owner of Tiffin Air, has some major concerns on this issue. Brad stated that every time there is a weather front that comes through, our area of cloud ceiling is at or below the height level. We also asked how often we have trouble with this, and he said regularly. We then asked what would happen if Life Flight could not access areas in the projected footprint during a low ceiling event. He referred me to the Life Flight statement and FAA guidelines, which that a person needing service would need to be ground transported to a pre-designated landing zone. This could mean they could lose as many as 30 minutes or more for a victim to be transported to Life Flight. That's all I have, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next name on the list did not identify himself as a proponent or an opponent. His name is John Hensland.
Thank you. My name is John Hensland, retired engineer with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, 39 years. Worked at writing EAs, environmental statements, traffic, you name it. Kind of done it all. And I'm retired now.
You're
Which is Address is 1020 Lake Alice Drive, Clear Lake, South Dakota, or Altamont is closer, whichever one you want. Got a couple things I want to talk about. I did read your admission or request for your conditional use. And I'd like to bring your attention to page 12. Under setbacks, I don't know if this has been changed or modified, probably should be. If you look on the second square there, it says distance from the center line of public right-of-way should be at least 500 feet or 110% of the height of the wind tower, whichever is the greater distance. Then it goes on to say 2 times the height of the wind turbine, and then it says measure of the ground surface. Doesn't make any sense.
Stop, I'm just gonna time out, you come back. That section, is not the correct information. The 2 times language was removed in 2009, it was not in the most current copy of the county zoning regulations available. for both
Okay.
functions.
All right, just one more question then, don't take this against my time.
No.
Then wasn't the applicant aware of that, or?
The applicant was given him the regulations that staff, Grant County staff had, based upon a compilation of the ordinances. Upon review of that compilation, it was found that in 2009, that 2 times the either or statement.
Okay, so that's been
was
clarified?
Yeah.
All right. What about the 110%?
Both, the 110% is still there, but
The
there's.
500 foot is still there?
Yes.
Okay, then my only comment would be if you have a 500 foot tower, you're measuring from the center line of the road, is the center line of the road yet?
We'll leave that to you.
Okay, if you're measuring center line of the road, 500 foot tower, that means if that tower falls over, you're gonna be about 28 feet or so from the edge of the road if you have a 12 foot lane and a 10 foot shoulder. So I think that's a little too close. Again, from my traffic experience, I would say you should use that as a right-of-way line, not the center line of the road. Okay, moving on. In the section under power and jurisdiction related to conditional use, some of you new guys here are probably already aware of it, maybe you served on the board many times before, I don't know. But it's your game plan on how you're supposed to handle these types of things. It says you can do 3 things. Either you can accept it, change it with conditions, or you deny it if it doesn't meet the purpose and intent of the zoning. You guys know what the purpose and intent is? I know our zoning back in Grant County didn't know neither. Well, what it is, the purpose and intent, I'm going to read it to you. Comes out of the purpose section. It's the only place where intent is mentioned in the purpose section. The regulations are intended to preserve and protect existing property values, and uses, and existing property values and uses against adverse or unharmonious uses. Now you're looking at a conditional use. Conditional uses generally are talked about as not being a type of use to be used in this type of setting. So you got to make certain that everything's right. Really quick, I want to talk a little bit about that same game plan. It says that you have to find, let me read it for you. This 3-minute stuff is bullshit. Excuse me, but it says here, any conditional use that is granted, the Board of Adjustments must make written findings certifying compliance with the specific rules governing individual conditional uses and that satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made. You have to make satisfactory provisions and arrangements. Now, how do you do that for this part here? You're supposed to be looking at the economic, noise, glare, odor, and other effects of the conditional use on adjoining properties and properties generally in the district. That means you got to look at the economic impact, and there is an impact. I talked about it last time I was here.
Sir, I let you go a little long.
Thank you. Take a look at the stuff that I handed out to you last time, please. Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to testify in opposition to the request that has not been called up? We're going to allow 1 minute. You have 1 minute.
Oh, that's fine. Diana Brent. You know, everybody.
I'm sorry, did you say, how
Diana Brent.
do you spell your last name?
Anyway, I would like to know, nobody is addressing water. We have a very shallow aquifer. They start punching holes all over the countryside. What's gonna happen to the water situation? Most everybody in here has a bar, has animals, has a well. We need to have a specialist come in here and address this. And make a study on the water situation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Seeing nobody else, we're gonna close the public hearing, call the applicant back. Applicant, were there any questions?
The question is there anything that was brought up in the opposition or proponent testimony that you would like to address, or would you want to wait for questions?
Okay, I'm gonna ask the staff, is there any questions? Has not been addressed?
I got stuff from small. Yes. We could have the applicant or a representative of the applicant here, the chair. We'll have to Phil Donahue this thing here. I want to begin, first of all, the question that, the first opposition question that was brought up, where there is some question of whether or not Amy Tuttle, 16175 Troy Avenue, South Dakota, was reviewed or covered within the application. Did you see anything in your review as based on what you were told?
The scope of the map shows a house in that area, but it does appear there's two houses in that area as well. Scope scale, I should say.
That is receptor number CR1G14-NP. It is included in the study, and we showed a level of 40 decibels at that location.
What's the setback from the closest tower to that receptor?
I don't have that information in front of me. I'd have to look it up tomorrow.
Does anybody from the staff, anybody have what that information is?
Jay, is it in your sound report in the appendix? It's in the appendix. What's the
Would you give us the,
G14.
would you please provide the distance from the 16175 to the closest tower, and what page that is found on in the application?
It's in the appendix, noise tables. First page of the noise table, listed under receptor number CR1-G14-NP, and it is 3,940 feet to the nearest terminal.
This may not be for you, Jay. There were several comments regarding requesting the Board of Adjustment to deny or postpone decision until a new ordinance is developed. How would you address that?